Hey Canucks fans, when it comes to JT Miller, do you want to see him as a third line center or a first line winger? I'm Canuck Clay. I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club. It's my Canucks take all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Thursday, June the 24th. Subscribe for Canucks insight that's positive, timely, and trustworthy. Big question heading into next season is, where is JT Miller going to play? Obviously he's going to play with the Canucks, but what I'm talking about is, where is he going to play in the lineup? There's a lot of talk about moving him to the third line center role, because then that gives you a strong tandem down the middle of Pettersson, Horvat, and Miller. But does it overall weaken the Canucks and their Canucks attack across their not only their top line, but their top three lines, their top nine, so to speak? The reason why this is very important is because the Canucks have a lot of holes. We've heard Jim Benning even talk about wanting to get another scoring forward. He doesn't say winger or center, he just says another scoring forward. There's the trickle-down effect. If you have JT Miller in your third line, then that automatically makes your bottom six a little stronger because of how good he is. So let's talk about the case for and the case against JT Miller playing as a third line center. And then throughout the video, whenever you want, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think, where you would put him for the start of next season. So again, this has a lot to do with who the Canucks are going to be able and not able to get throughout the off season, and I think that's really going to dictate actually a lot. It's going to dictate a lot where JT Miller plays. Let's talk about what type of player he is first, and then we can talk about the pros and cons of a move to center for him. JT Miller is a smart player. He's a passionate player. You see that both when things are going well and certainly when things aren't going well. His F-bombs per 60 are probably among the best in the entire NHL. Now, he's very good offensively. He's got a really good shot, a nice release. He's got good offensive instincts. He's a really good passer. That's one thing I noticed about JT Miller. He not only thinks the game well, but he passes well. And one place where he passes really well, I've talked about this before, is from the face-off dots down, even from the behind the net, behind the goal line. Often, as a winger, he would be able to set up a guy like Besser or Pettersson more in the slot with some really good passing, some good decision-making from the face-off dots down. On the power play, we often saw him on the left flank, starting downhill, right, doing a little bit of a loop at the blue line, then taking a pass from Hughes and trying to get some momentum that way. So we know he loves to score. We know he loves to create on the offensive zone. He's really good on the boards, and not only winning puck battles, but he's patient. One thing we hear a lot about is JT Miller. He almost preaches this patience, where keep the puck as much as you can and don't give it up so easily, whether you're in the offensive zone, of course, or in the defensive zone. And we'll get to defense in a second. So he's good along the boards, both offensively and defensively. That's another thing. And one thing I've talked about a lot too is he's good breaking up opposing passes. Many times I noticed, not so much this season, but 2 seasons ago, a defenseman from the opposing team would try and do a pass up the middle or down the boards, and JT Miller's got really good hand-eye coordination, good stick handling. He would often bat pucks out of the air or with his legs, and so I actually thought he broke up a lot of potential, not odd man rushes, but potential rushes emanating from the opposing team zone coming out at him. So those are all some good attributes of JT Miller's game. Good leader as well, very vocal, and we hear that every broadcast. A couple things that he's not so good at. His defensive awareness, and Harman Dial did an article about this in The Athletic. He used the term, he doesn't really have his head on a swivel. So, and we'll talk about the importance of this, especially as a center. You need to be aware of what's going on. And defensively, once in a while, you would see him, forget to be a little bit slow on the back check, right? Or forget to pick up his man, so to speak, in front of the net. So, we don't pay him to be a defensive stalwart, but you still want to have a good defensive awareness. And I think that's the only thing that really concerns me about his defensive game. It's not a lack of effort. I think it's just a lack of focus once in a while. No one would ever blame his effort or his compete level, but I think once in a while, whether it's at the end of a long shift or simply you don't think your guy's going to make a play and then he's the guy who puts in the net, a lot of people suffer from that. And JT Miller, we saw a couple moments, occasions of that this past season. Okay, so if we agree that that's kind of the profile of JT Miller, what makes sense? So let's build the case for him being a third line center. Well, we know he likes it. We know he likes the puck on a stick. We know that he likes the extra responsibility, and that's what you get from being a center as opposed to a winger. As a center, you not only have the puck a lot, but you the whole point, I guess, logically, by center, it means you're not on the boards, you're in the middle of the ice. So that does mean, though, that you are coming down really low to help out on defense, checking the other team's center. Yet you have to do a lot of skating, right, up and down, and be responsible defensively, and then obviously try and be a cog offensively. Would JT Miller then be the Canucks shutdown center as opposed to Horvat? Horvat is almost miscast as a shutdown guy. He's been better. He's improved as he's gotten more mature, but that was never his role. Like, so anyone pegging Horvat as a defensive specialist, that's not right. His gift is his offensive ability and the way that he can rush to the net and his stick handling. So by nature, he's become our shutdown guy because Sutter and Beagle simply weren't able to keep up with a lot of the Connor McDavids of the world, and then Petey's not there yet. So that's why Horvat has been doing that the past few seasons. So would that be JT Miller's role in the middle? So the pros of putting JT Miller in the middle: more ice time conceivably, and you can still obviously reunite him with Besser and Pettersson, which I'll get to in a second, when you need to in a crunch. But then, yeah, more responsibility, more ice time, more touches for the puck, all those things, and then you beef up your team down the middle, and then you focus on getting wingers. So that's the case for JT Miller. Not a particularly strong case, but a case nonetheless. Oh, by the way, I guess you could add to that. I heard Jim Benning on the radio this morning say that Travis Green does like JT Miller in the middle as well. So maybe that's a big check mark on that side. What are the negatives, the cons of putting JT Miller in the middle? Well, I talked about one of his strengths is his board play. And as a center, you're not, again, logically, center, middle, you're not on the boards a lot. That's the job of the wingers. So that's why JT Miller was so effective on the boards as a winger. And he simply wouldn't play as much on the wing as a center, obviously, on the boards as a center. So that's one con of putting JT Miller as a center, is then you lose a bit of his board play. Defensively, is he responsible enough? Is he aware enough in his own end? Again, that head on the swivel concept. Maybe that's a learned thing, but is he good enough to play and cover that much area in the defensive zone and be spatially aware of what's happening? And I guess the biggest thing going against JT Miller as a center is, we know 2 years ago, the Lotto line of him, Pettersson, and Besser was among the top lines in the entire NHL. Struggled a bit last year as Petey came off to a slow start, as Miller got off to a slow start. Besser was the only one going actually for that line for a little bit. So you know what you're getting in that line, though. And yes, maybe you can play Miller as a center and then reunite those guys in a pinch, down a goal, double shift, whatever it may be. But by default, if you don't start him on that line, then obviously there's going to be less chances for him to produce with Besser and Pettersson. So I think that's a conundrum, right? Is if you put him at third line center, it evens out, makes you very strong down the middle and engages Miller more in the play. But does it make your team ultimately less dangerous because you're breaking up that Lotto line now? So I think a lot of it's actually going to depend on what the Canucks do this offseason, whether they can trade out some guys and bring some new guys in, or do some expansion draft, lifting, whatever it may be. So I think it's too early to say right now, like it is for a lot of things, where Miller's going to play. But I think it is worth talking about. And again, maybe that decision does not shape what the Canucks do in the offseason, but rather it gets shaped by what the Canucks do in the offseason. So I hope you see the difference there. And I'd love to know your thoughts. So leave a comment below for you as a Canucks fan. Do you want JT Miller as a third line center, or keep him with Petey and Brock on the first line as a winger? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. Where would you play JT Miller to start the season? And yes, don't just give me, well, it depends on who the Canucks get. That's what I just spent the last 8 minutes talking about. Tell me about, in a perfect world, personnel all working out, where do you want JT Miller to play? I want to give a shout out to my Hall of Fame members: Jens95, Sim Alexander, Justin Credible, nucksfan number 29, Lucas Gates, Chris Seifert, Adam Broomfield, Shea Family Channel, Jamie Sports Talk and More, and Shannon Hollingworth. Thanks for your support as always, and thanks to the support of all members of all levels. If you want to become a member of the CCC Crew, press the join button underneath this or in my videos, or on the memberships tab on my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you'd like to, like this video if you'd like to, become a member of the channel if you'd like to, and leave a comment below about JT Miller. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.